My name is Darcy Borg. I'm a painter, currently showing at On the Edge Gallery. I used to be a video editor, and I have a little bit of a life story.
You've seen her time-lapse artwork all over Instagram, but who is this Darcy Borg?
My parents were diplomats. I was born in Washington, D.C., and I grew up all over the world. I went to Iceland when I was 4, and then Malaysia, and then I came back to Virginia when my sister got very sick and we needed to have doctors look at her. And then we went back to Italy for my high school, and then I went to college in America.
Darcy had to medically withdraw from college because she got Lyme disease. Yet she managed to make the dean's list.
But I had to withdraw, and I left, and it gets a little chaotic.
This brought her back to live with her dad, who was in Washington, D.C., to get the proper medical treatment.
When I was younger, my dad wouldn't, like when I was sick and I'd stay home and stuff, or my dad would never let me watch TV or do, like watch fun things, quote unquote. But I could watch National Geographic, and I could read National Geographic books and magazines and stuff. And so they were always like nature shows and like, watch the animal as he goes through this cave. And so I've been so trained to like watching these animals and their existences, and I love to deconstruct their universe and put them into new spaces.
Darcy's health began to improve, so she went back to France where her mom was still working, but unfortunately her illness came back. However, the French government would not cover her treatment, so she went back to the United States.
I went into a series of other institutions, ended up in Arizona actually with some trash bags full of clothes, and I sort of got stuck in the desert for a while. And then I migrated to Los Angeles, and it was as far as I could go without getting on a boat.
Darcy wanted to go back to school, and just down the street from where she was staying was the Art Institute of Los Angeles.
I got bored within 2 years and decided that I would go to a master's program because I didn't want to do my 2 years more of college. And so I applied to the best school in America, and I got in.
In her own words, her first year was a train wreck.
I don't remember it at all. I was blackout drunk. I was on academic probation, but I made it through.
The next year was much better. Darcy sobered up, she began networking with some professors, and began working with Academy Award winners. The force is strong in Hollywood, but there's also a dark side, and that did not fit the Jedi mind powers of Darcy.
That the film editing world could eat me alive, and I wasn't really ready for it. It wasn't really what I wanted. I liked it for myself, but I wasn't in it for the egos and for the corruption of all of it.
She sold everything and moved to Colorado to become a yoga instructor.
I work a lot with jewels, with gemstones. When I really need a break, I bead. And I started off with colors, and it's sort of like lapis lazuli blue. And I'm like, I really want to make a blue painting. What's the contrasting color to blue? It's orange. Okay, I want to make a blue and orange painting. Okay, well, what flies in blue, And I kind of go with that.
Interesting.
Or someone will say, hey, make an anglerfish. And I'm like, okay. There we go.
Her practice in yoga lasted just a few months when a project came up that led her to Arizona.
And I found this wonderful man who ended up being my husband. And I started working on all these projects. I started going to Bali. I started going to California again. I started going to Hawaii. I was doing editing projects that were for myself, not for big honcho people. And it was fun, but I'm reminding you, I haven't painted since 2008, since I got sick.
Darcy decided to try a different style of editing than news at Arizona's Family in Phoenix.
But eventually I started working from 2 a.m. to 8 p.m. on things. And eventually it started to trigger my Lyme disease.
Darcy was sick once again, but this time her husband had a great idea.
And I was really depressed. And my husband looked at me and was just like, you can't just be home and be sick. Why don't you pick up the paintbrush again?
Going back to the paintbrush quickly became an obsession.
And it was this reluctant chore that became this big obsession of mine. And it was sort of like, honey, you have to stop painting. We have to eat dinner. We have to go to sleep now, And it was like, I couldn't stop painting after a while. And then it was eventually like, okay, we have to do something with these paintings. There's too many paintings in the house. Like, what are we gonna, So I saw this opportunity to join the gallery, and then I started being like, oh my gosh, I guess I'm an artist. I guess I should sell these things.
And Darcy Does Art was born. You can find Darcy at On the Edge Gallery in Old Town Scottsdale.